Can you hear me? Okay, great. So let's start out by looking at the first game that you sent. Okay, it's a fourth file rook, and you're using Tenshukaku Mino like we talked about before. Let's go back a couple moves. No, this is fine. Okay, so far so good. Yeah, I was wondering what you thought of this move. You're making space for Chikatetsu Bisha. Okay. What do you think I'm gonna say about this move? Yeah. The thing about knight moves are that once you move the knight up, it can't go backwards, so it's very committal. So yeah, it is probably a little bit too early. What do you think you should have done instead? You know, in and of itself, it might not be a bad move, but are there ways that you could play that are not as committal while still advancing your position? 6-6 bishop. Or 4-6 pawn. So either this or this. Yeah, those would be possibilities. The 6-6 bishop though. I was wondering, what would you do against this? Probably 5-6 pawn. Yeah, the problem with this is you might end up harassing your bishop like this. So whenever you move pieces out like 6-6 bishop, you want to make sure that your attackers can't get harassed. So how can you stop it from getting attacked like that? Yeah, probably 7-7 knight. And what happens if he pushes like this? Yeah, you need a place to retreat the bishop, so this move does make some sense. Yeah. Okay. And then I guess next you can play 9-5 pawn. Let's see. Yeah, if he wasn't in an Anaguma, uh, eventually he'd probably want to play 4-5 pawn. But as things are right now, that isn't possible. The reason being this. Yeah, and see, hitting the pawn and the rook. So because the squares, this 5-3 square is undefended, he's not able to activate his pieces really quickly. I guess if he wants to further his harassment of the bishop, I guess he can do this first, and then follow it up maybe by 6-5 pawn. Yeah. But yeah, it looks... I don't know if he can maintain the bishop here. That's the only thing. Let's see. Let's move that up. So if something like this happens, and then I don't know, maybe this. But then you have this push. So you would have to do this first. I don't know, it might be okay because maybe later on you have this 3-5 pawn push too. Why is that rook file push good? Part of the reason is you want to push this pawn anyway. Oh, go ahead. What's the answer? Yeah. In this kind of position, you want the pawn to be pushed up anyway. So at some point, it's going to be a useful move. So you might as well play it, especially since he's going to have to respond to it by doing this anyway. So you might as well just get it in. And this comes in with the 2-4 pawn threat. So he has to defend against it like this. And then maybe there's different things you can do. One is something like this. Another thing is this. So you're definitely starting to get moves. So yeah, this is definitely a possibility. And of course this pawn is also possible. If he does this, I don't know, maybe you can aim for the 4-5 pawn push. Probably at some point he might play 3-5 pawn though, so not completely sure about this position. So, a very non-committal way of playing is this. Just to move up the pawn on the fifth file, like this. Then you can develop the silver on 5-7, and then determine what to do after that. Let's say something like this. If he does this, then he can get this this vanguard pawn here. If this, then I don't know, maybe here, and he's threatening the pawn though. Because if you defend it like this, he's going to push here. And you aren't able to do this because of this silver's hanging. So it doesn't look like a very pretty move, but you might be able to do that. That or that. Let's see. Could you defend it like this too? I guess you could do this, but you notice the bishop might have a hard time getting into play. Maybe it'd have to go 7-9. Okay, what's the point of the vanguard pawn in this position? It's just to, when you advance the silver, it'll be behind the pawn instead of in front of it. It also prevents him from playing 6-4 pawn and 7-4 pawn. And sometime in the future, you might be able to play 6-4 pawn just to sacrifice it to open lines to attack. So it puts pressure on the opponent's position, so it's good in both attack and defense. Another thing you could do is probably you might do this, but you notice that the bishop's diagonal is closed. So eventually, maybe he'd want to play 6-5 pawn just to open it, or 7-9 bishop. Yeah, that's also possible. Another thing you could do is this. But then you notice that the silver's in front of the pawn compared to the other position. Sort of the easy to explain reason why you do this is if he does a move like this, maybe you could just retreat the silver like here. Threaten to exchange bishops and push the pawn to 2-4. So maybe like this. Yeah, if black can get a pawn in hand, what do you think his threat would be? Of course, he'd have to get one in hand before he does this, but imagine that black had a pawn in hand. What would you play here? Four-six pawn. Okay, with a pawn in hand, actually he'd want to play 3-5 pawn. Because if the silver takes, then you can exchange bishops. If the pawn takes, then you can play the pawn to 3-4. Bishop moves back, and then 2-4 pawn. So that's the basic threat. But so maybe if he does like this, you can, I don't know, you could also do like this, or like here, threaten 2-4 pawn. So if he does this, then I don't know, maybe you can do here. Can you defend like this? Sometimes you see moves like this, 4-5 pawn in response to the. Is a threat there 5-4 silver? No. It's black who has the threats. Okay, let me just show you what black's going to do. He's going to exchange off the rook pawn. And if here, what would you do as black? Two five pawn. Okay, if this, then we're going to see the reason why 4-5 pawn is played. Well, actually, wait. There's actually a big difference between this position and if in positions where the castle isn't an onaguma. Because usually you can play this, but here, because it's an onaguma, you can always promote like here. But then he does this. Another thing he can do is this. Threatening to take the pawn on 2-5. So if here and here, then you have a tempo move like that, hitting the goal. If like this, takes, yeah, I don't know. Okay. Well, let me just show you the, well, yeah, it might be possible. Let me just show you the threat, though. Like this. You're not caring about the exchange of the rooks. Rook for bishop. If knight takes, then this rook falls. So he's going to exchange like this, and then the loose silver falls. So this type of exchange, you have to evaluate whether or not it'll be worth that exchange. For the time being, you're up a silver. So if here, yeah, I'm not exactly sure. A lot of times this type of exchange benefits Ibisha's side, but you know, as I say, devil's in the details, so you have to still try to evaluate whether or not it's worth it. Because it's not like white doesn't have his own threats either. But anyway, that's just something to keep in mind. Okay, let's go back. Okay, so different ways. Another way to continue is like this. Have you seen this one before? Yeah, it's like a Hayakurigin. When it's played with Ibisha against Furibisha, they call this a Naname Bogin. Yeah, the game goes under those sorts of lines. So even though you have a Tenshukaku Mino, you can still sometimes use this type of attack. So it's another way that you might consider playing. So not only do you have a strong castle, but you can try to attack using the silver. Okay. But that's all I wanted to say about the opening for this. Is it not problematic that the right silver is missing? You mean on 4-8? Like in a regular Q-sen? Yeah, actually there are there are certain pluses and minuses not to have that silver there, but it's probably going to go beyond the scope of what I want to discuss. So to answer your question, it could be. The reason why is basically because after you exchange your pawns off the third file, sometimes the opponent's pawn ends up on 3-6. And what he'll do after the silver is gone from 4-6 is he'll promote the pawn on 3-7, the knight takes, and then 3-6 pawn to attack that advanced knight. If there were silver on 4-8, after 3-7 pawn promotes, the silver could take instead of the knight. So that's one of the big differences. So you have to be able to foresee whether or not that's going to make a difference. Okay? Yeah, so we should probably head back into the actual game, unless you have more questions about these lines that I showed. If not, we should probably continue on. Oh, no, it's totally fine. Totally fine. Good to ask questions. So this knight move to 3-7, it's committal. Not necessarily bad though, but it does look awfully early. Okay, now you played this. What do you think I'm going to say about this move? That my king is trapped. Actually, the king isn't trapped. But you notice this Mino shape? It's kind of ideal shape. And when you do this, you kind of mess it up. So you're voluntarily weakening your castle. Okay. So instead of that, maybe you could just play moves like this. If he moves the silver up like in the game, then you can get a vanguard pawn in the center. And then you put the silver in ideal shape. It's advanced right behind the pawn. Like that. And then how would you say your line of play would go? Yes, probably what you want to do is, let's just make a move. Push here, and then maybe 4-5 pawn. So that's definitely a way. Another possibility is to do like this. You notice that the silver is protecting the head of the bishop. So there's a big difference between this and the position that we're looking earlier. That's another reason why the Vanguard pawn's really nice. Another way to go is maybe this followed by 6-5 pawn. So you end up with 2 Vanguard pawns. And maybe you can put the bishop on 6-6 and continue castling with 6-7 gold. That's also possible. Another way is maybe like this, threatening to play 2-4 pawn. So different ways of thinking about the position. One of the nice things about this move is it deals with a potential 3-5 pawn by the opponent, to attack the head of your knight. Because probably he's not going to spend the move doing this. He's just going to get a pawn in hand like here. Okay, and you see 3-5 pawn becomes kind of a threat. Because 3-5 pawn, 2-6 rook, 1-5 bishop. It harasses the rook and hits both the rook and the knight. Let me just show that. I'll just pass a move. Let's see, like this, and then we can see another difference of this position and a Q-sen position. The silver isn't on 4-8, so it's not protecting the knight. See the difference? So certain tactics aren't going to work against Q-sen positions, but they will against positions where the silver isn't on 4-8. So you always have to take these small details into consideration. You can't just assume that the thing's going to be nice like other similar looking lines. You always have to look at details. So probably what you want to do is protect the edge by pushing. That way, if this, then you can defend this way, and then no more 1-5 bishop. So that's just something that could happen. But going back to the Vanguard pawn, you notice it stops the opponent from developing. He can't play to open up his bishop's diagonal, and it's making it difficult to get his pieces out. So that's why Vanguard pawns are good in attack and defense. For attacking purposes, eventually you might be able to even sacrifice the pawn with 5-4 pawn just to open up the diagonal, or to use the pawn on the 5th file. So it's very useful. Okay. On this sort of the small tactical thing is he can't do this because silver gets trapped. So let's see what you did. So voluntary weakening of the castle. So this gold move and the lance move, aside from weakening the castle, it strikes me as being awfully extravagant. Almost like I'm looking at this thing and thinking, yeah, there's no way this should work. So let's just see what happened. Okay. And 5-7 silver. So we can see his line of play is going to be 7-5 pawn and 6-5 silver. So in order to deal with that, one way we could do it is by preventing the silver darkly with this. The only thing is he's going to push the pawn like this. And if something like this, maybe actually moves like this might work. And he's going to exchange like this. Right now the rook wouldn't be able to take the pawn because of the bishop drop on 3-3. So it's almost like a stutter step. I guess you could also just move the silver up here. And then he's going to do this. And he threatens 3-5 pawn again. So I don't know, maybe something like this. Your king position looks unenviable though. I don't know, could you do this though? Since a rook isn't defending along the rank. Because if here, then maybe a move like this. If bishop takes, maybe like this. Yeah, I'm not sure. It might actually work. Okay, let's go back. Okay, so again, maybe a move like this might work. But then you'd have to worry about this. But then rook comes out. I don't know. What do you think of this? Black seems to have a good chance of getting the rook further forward. Yeah, but what happens if he continues on like here? Yeah, I instinctively I don't trust black's position. Okay, so he just dropped it back. So he has a pawn in hand, and he got what he wanted. Okay, silver up. Yeah, it allows this though. You know, if you do a move like this, you notice that now you don't have that 7-9 bishop with tempo. One of the reasons is the gold is on 6-8. So it's really screwing up with your coordination tool. Okay, so again the shape is getting worse and worse. Okay, this is kind of desperate looking. Yeah. Hmm. Okay, tempo. Good move. If you take like this, then the rook is, wait, oh, no, this guy falls. No, so actually, if here, then he's gonna grab like this. Sorry, since it's with check. Like this. So if you grab the silver here and like here, I don't know. Maybe you can just do this. Yeah. So this move. Does he have anything better? A move like this might also come into consideration. Don't want to retreat the silver if possible. Maybe like this, but then now there's no more 6-4 knight. So yeah, what he did was pretty active. Okay. And now he dropped the silver here. Another thing he could have done was taken this first. because after here, then you drop the silver. Okay. And knight takes, pawn takes, bishop takes, and then you notice compared to the game, the rook isn't hitting this 6-5 square. So he's gonna win this one really easily. I'll compare that to this. See, the rook is still defending that square. Of course, this might still work, but it's not as clear. Okay. Actually, it might be. Yeah, this is. Yeah, actually, this probably doesn't matter. This is a really good move. Yeah, because he has enough. Yeah. Okay, let's go back. Instead of 6-6 king, if the king was here, how would you continue if you're white? Six five silver. Yeah, that's definitely possible. Is there something faster though? 7-7 pawn. Yeah, that could work. That might work. But like this, the gold is pinned by the bishop. Yeah, that. Like here, another way is this. King goes over, check, and then check like this. So it's going to get mated. If the king just goes down, yeah, there's still that. 8-8 king, then you still have this. Don't you? Wait. Yeah, his king is completely safe, so he has a number of ways that you can win. One way is just to promote like this. And you have a 2-on-1 situation on the 8-7 square, so this is definitely just winning. Another thing you can do is, I imagine this is probably going to work too. And another way to go is just taking like this and then closing in on the king. If he tries to defend like this, then you just pile up again. if this, then the token just, well, excuse me, he just takes like this. Okay. Did you have any questions about this? Any other questions about this game? It seems like you decided against Chikatetsu Bisho very soon, whereas very stubborn about it. At what point would you say it would have been good to move away from it? Okay, for Chikatetsu Bisha, I would advise if you're going to try and play it, that you would use a castle other than Tenchukaku Mino. Partially because you're spending time making the Mino, and then you're playing moves that don't sort of jive with the positions of your golds and silvers. If you had like a weaker castle, like regular Kyusen Katachi with the silvers on 5-7 or 4-8, stuff like that, then the gold moves up to 6-8, and compare that position with the position in the game. You're gonna put the gold up to 6-8 anyway, and it also harmonizes with the type of castle you already have. So it's almost, so by deciding to try to go into Chikatetsu Bisha using a Tenchukaku Mino, it's almost like you change your mind, and you end up losing time as a result. Does that make sense? Okay, so like usual, before we move on to the next game, I'm going to ask you, what did you learn from this game? Take a minute and I'll come back. Okay, let's see what you came up with. I haven't typed anything yet. Okay, don't change your mind in the middle of the game, just like you said. Specifically, Tenshukaku and Chikatetsu Bisha are a bad combination. Vanguard pawns are useful for both offense and defense. Vanguard pawn can be usefully defended by silver, as you don't move out the knight too early. Yeah, unless you have a really good reason or a deep plan for doing so, you should probably avoid it. for the time being. When you're attacking, if you end up using a silver like with the Naname Bogin, there's a certain flexibility with the silver since it can move back. So there's a little bit more wiggle room. Compare that with the knight. Once you move it up, you're committed. And it can become a target sometimes if you don't have follow-up moves. Okay. Alright. Good. So we'll save that and we can open up the next game. Okay, can you see this one? So if it showed up. Okay. So you're playing black again? Ah, you're doing the Tenchukakumino, okay. Okay, yeah, this time you played 5-6 pawn, so I'm pleased to see that. Good, also 2-5 pawn. You're going to do that anyway. Okay. Ah, and sort of the first thing to think about. Okay. Then you played here. There probably isn't anything wrong with that move. Alternatives could be this 3-6 pawn, 4-6 pawn, also 5-7 silver. If he opens up the diagonal, we can see the usefulness of this gold here. Because if exchange, like here, you can defend like that. But instead of exchanging the bishops, I guess another way of doing it is this. And then move the bishop here, but then the silver comes out here and threatens 4-6 pawn. I guess you could still do this. I guess this is also possible. Yeah, okay, anyway. Yeah, but what you did wasn't bad. Okay. Okay, what did you think of this move? Were you satisfied with what happened? In retrospect, it was probably a bit early. Yes. It was way too early. Yeah, you should probably do it like this. Okay, and then he responded by taking here. Alright. Was there a way to punish this move? Yep. Take the lance. Right. The bishop goes straight into the castle. So look at the position of your generals. See, they're defending the side of your king. But right behind it is kind of weak. So he's hitting your weaknesses immediately. Okay. Now if you continue with something like this, you notice that because the lance isn't there, there's 9/8 square is kind of weak. So like this. And you can continue to attack here. See that? Look how exposed the king is. See, this bishop promotion's a threat mate. Or isn't it? No, wait, it's not a threat mate. Takes pawn or... It's almost a threat mate. Oh, sorry, sorry, I'm hallucinating. Lance takes pawn, king takes 4/9 lance, just mates. So yeah, it is a threat mate. Okay. So there's that. Yeah, this was a little bit too much. Yeah, too much material. Yeah. Did you have any questions about this game? So instead of 2/2 pawn, what probably you should have just continued by doing like this. Like this or like this. What do you thought about forfeiting after the... You mean resigning? Yeah, you might as well resign. The thing was just completely lost. You know, if you're gonna get a Gyakuten, which is a turnaround, it has to be done way before the thing is that bad. Okay, so what did you learn from this game? Hey, hi Spinal Tap Chess. Nice to see you. I'm teaching Grey John right now. How are you doing? Okay, Grey John says, besides the obvious bishop drop lesson, develop my silver to attack. Well, I was hoping that you'd learn something about that really big thing that we discussed. This one. I think if you're going to get anything out of the game, it would have to do with this. Okay, so you don't want to lose such a precious piece so early in the game. Oh, well, sometimes it is okay to leave it unattended, but not in this situation. The edge is way too weak now. So, Tenshu Kakumino, it's very strong at the side, very weak over here in the back. Also at the front. So by doing that and losing the lance, the structural defects in the castle is just shown very clearly. If you do something like this, then I don't know. Maybe you could just do this, or sorry, maybe like this. But he is up a lance, so it's not going to turn out very well. Okay. All right, save that. We can move on to the next thing. This is from a game that I watched recently. Can you see it? You see the board? Not going to look at the opening, just this. Okay, good. Okay. How should black continue? He is up material, but the opponent's rook broke through. Is it safe enough for him to attack? And if so, how would he attack? The nice thing about this position is there's a wide range of moves that he could play. Yeah, actually his king is safe enough. So just giving you that, how would you attack? The fact of the matter is, black has a really has good attacking moves, so his king is actually in a better situation than the opponent's, although it doesn't seem that way at first. It's because it's his move and he has tempo moves. So you can't just simply glance at the position and say, oh, one side is safer than the other. You have to look at whose move it is to play, and also if there's initiative moves or tempo moves. And again, he is up material, so he can put that to good use. Seven four knight. Yeah, that is a bit early. Actually, looking at it again now, maybe, yeah, the opponent's king, I mean, black's king is kind of rickety. He's gonna the opponent can play a 2/8 promoted lance, and after exchanging the silver for the lance, he can play 2/6 knight. So yeah, actually his king isn't safe, very safe. So yes, I have to take back what I said. Okay, so attacking moves. This is one. This is a different way of attacking. Like this. But these things are all kind of slow. He's going to play here. Hmm. 8/5 knight. And this. Uh, well, actually, let's just see what happened. He played here, and he captured, which actually helped speed up the attack. Right now, he should probably just pull this back and continue on his own attack. But then there's kind of irritating stuff like this. if here he's just going to run on that way. Like that. Yeah, actually white is winning this one. Because if here, you can just can you just pile up on it? No, because of this check. Maybe something like this. Because if check, then he can run up this way. Yeah. Okay. Let's see what happens. Okay, so this helped them. So one of the reasons why he wanted to play this move is just to get play, but as we've seen, then it's not quite enough. But then, yeah, this was a thank you move, and then he continues attacking the front of the king. This is actually what I wanted to show. Then he moved the king up. What would you play here as black? We've kind of already seen the pattern. H5 knight. Yeah, the thing about this, he can run away. Maybe here though. Yeah, he's gonna take. If promote here. Maybe he can just do a semi. If this check, you can just take it. If here, then this comes in first. Yeah, so it's a little slow. Yeah, 9-4 pawn is way too slow. You're just going to ignore it and play 2-8 lance, promoted lance. Okay, so the answer is just to drive the king out of this protective area. So he does that by taking the pawn here. So we can see the threat is to drop the bishop on a2. Let's just show it like this. Notice the king is being driven away from his defensive pieces. And now, I guess you can threaten mate by doing here. Threaten to drop the lance on 7-6. So he took it. And then what's the next move? Pawn drop I just made. If you drop the pawn here, he's going to run. He can run back. So how do you stop the king from running back? Yeah, that is possible. But then he might have a chance to do Nabari with moves like this or this. Actually, it still looks pretty bad. Yeah, maybe here. And then you can run to 6-3 next. How do you make his king even more vulnerable and stop him from running back? Yes. Drop the lance here. Okay, then he has to drop pawn, and you just take it. And then now what? Yep. 6-8 bishop. Sorry, it seems lagging a little bit. Okay. King back. Actually, this also works. Leads to the same thing, and then you take the silver. But then you ask yourself, well, can't you just run the king back? Well, yeah, you can, but it runs into attacking pieces very, very quickly. This isn't going to work because you just pick off the knight like this. So if he runs back like this, then this knight comes in with check. So it's very, very fast. King back. And then now what? There's actually a Tetsuji here. It's good to remember. 7-1 silver. He's gonna take it, right? Yeah, 7-3 pawn, good. So he threatens to take the silver with check. So if knight takes, then how do you follow up? Seven for pawn. You know, this probably will work. There's actually more than one way to do it. This looks okay. Another way to do it is immediately take like this, and then just drop the knight here. But also perfectly fine. Sort of the Tetsuji way to do it is to take the pawn here. You see, the knight captures, and you notice that the edge is weak. So you strike in the opposite direction. It's like a hanechigai. And if the lance takes, then you can play this move. Okay, takes, and then there's still a threat mate, 9-3 silver. So 9-3 pawn, and takes, and then how do you continue? Look how vulnerable that king is. Look at the positions of his generals. Completely bare king. So how do you finish it? Was that 7-4 pawn the last? No, the 6-3. and it lands. Yeah, I do it like this. Hmm. 7-4 pawn. Yeah, that looks way too slow. So you should just, the easiest way to do it is to strike immediately with the pawn. If the king takes, and check again. King takes, and so you just keep driving the king up like that. King back and lands trump. So after this, he's gonna have to move the king back, like here, and now check. And if the king moves here, then there's gonna be a mate like this. So he has to move the king back here. That way there's no immediate mate because of the Uchifuzume. See, there's no pawn drop mate here. But then now you can just very calmly continue to attack like here. Because if this, then it's just too slow. There's not enough firepower behind this. Doesn't have time for 2-6 knight. Okay. Let's go back a couple moves. If the king takes instead, like here, check, back, and then now what? If 9-3 silver, king moves back, and then yeah, if the lance takes, it's going to be immediate mate, like that. So he's going to move the king back. Seven for pawn now. Yeah, that could work. Could work. You're too black is too far ahead in the attack. Uh, let's see if this 6-3 horse works too. Just to see it. It might just be kind of silly, but sort of the basic idea is this. Also, the silver's being pinned, so 8-3 rook promote is is threatened. But then he might just move out of the way. So yeah, that was actually kind of silly. Yeah, just this. Okay. Another way to keep on going is this pawn promote, and then we end up in a similar position to what we saw before. See, like this, and then that again. Alright, so I just wanted to show you a few of the moves that were actually played in the game. The guy played this, and the idea was that if some piece takes, I don't know, like this, then you notice that the 7-3 square is blocked off. Uh, so he would do like this. That was his idea. The problem is that the opponent doesn't have to take it. So you can do like this, and then just give the silver up. Yeah, this is still much better for black, but the king isn't in the same type of danger as in the variation that we looked at. So, although this move looks very, very tempting, and it's definitely one of those moves that you look at, the natural check followed by grabbing the silver it's very easy to find the follow-up moves. So should have been played. Okay. Did you have any questions about this? I don't think I understand it well enough to have a question. Okay. Well, you can always take a look at this. Looks like black is making something out of nothing. Yeah. Well, take a look at it later on by yourself and see if you have questions, and then you can always ask me later on. And did you have a chance to look at that problem that I posted on EA Sengen? If not, I'm going to show it now. Yeah, it's the most recent one. Let me load it up. Close that one. Okay, can you see this? Okay, good. Try to find a light move for black. It's a pawn combination. This is what you call dancing pawns. Yep. Okay, now if the rook takes, there's this, forking the silver and the gold. Okay, so that's the first point. That means that the gold has to take. Okay, now what? Hmm. If 2-4 pawn, he's gonna grab this. Yes. Okay. So now the coordination is interrupted. This is a promotion at the focal point. So if gold takes the token, then the bishop falls. If the bishop takes it, then the gold falls. If the knight takes it, then the gold also falls. So that means the rook must take it. Okay, now what? Ooh, 4-4 bishop. If he takes like this, he's gonna drop a pawn here. So this isn't gonna be completely clear. If the rook moves back, even if there's an exchange of uh, bishop for rook, you notice that, look at the diagonals that are open. So the opponent's going to get counterplay. So it's not completely clear. So instead of that, what's better? Yes, 2-4. Oh, 2-4 rook. You mean 2-4 pawn, right? 2-4 pawn. Yeah. Okay. Good. And now we can see that the movement of the gold is exploited. So must go up diagonally, and then promotion here. Let's, if the rook runs, then you just pull the rook back. Let's see. And pawn here. Notice that the token's still attacking the bishop. So now maybe you can do it like this. If rook takes token, then the silver falls, so he has to defend it first. And you notice that there's an exchange. But what did he get out of the exchange, though? I mean, aside from a rook getting the bishop for the rook, what did he get from it? What else did he get from it? Yeah, that's one thing. He's white is fugire, which means he has no pawns in hand. That's one thing. Another thing. What else? What else is there? Silver. Yeah. Well, the silver is being attacked by the bishop. So that means that if the rook ever has to move away, uh, then the silver is going to fall. So the rook is potentially a target. What else? Yep, he has a token. And finally, you notice that this gold is kind of just out here. So there's loose pieces. So because of that, black is in a much better position. Let's say just to continue the line a little bit, he isn't able to drop the bishop here because of this drop. See, it's hitting the rook and the silver. So what happens if he does, let's say, like this? How would you continue? 5-4 pawn, yes. Since the rook is being burdened with the task of defending the silver, you can attack the rook like this. Takes, then now you can fork it. So you're hitting the two loose pieces. Good. And one final thing is if he drops this, then can you just kill off the, maybe you can just kill off the rook. Like that. Yeah, okay. Good, good, good. So let's see what he did in the game. He took the gold, then takes this. So what did Black get from this exchange? Yeah. What about the silver? Yeah, it's awful. Yeah, it is awful in general. His pieces lack cohesion. That's the main. That's the main thing. So gold on 6-1 isn't defended. Gold on 2-5 isn't defended. His corner minor pieces aren't defended. Also, silver isn't defended. So yeah, he generally lacks cohesion. So that gives Black a chance to attack those loose pieces. So he does it like this. Now he did 7-2 silver. Could you hold on for a second? I'm in the middle of teaching. Sorry about that. Okay. If instead of 7-2 silver, he tries to defend it by doing this, he exchanges it, and he just drops here again, threatening the knight. And if here takes, you could do something like this. See, it's skewering the silver and the gold. Okay, if this check, king runs over, but this comes in first before recapturing. And now 5-6 knight is threatened. Okay, so let's say here has to do something about the gold. So maybe you can either drop the lance or move the gold over. Let's say it does this. If this, I guess if nothing else, you can always defend here. Let's see, does he win the semi? There's this check. If the king runs up, he grabs this with check. Takes here, and then there's mate like that. So yeah, this would here, and then this falls with check. If gold here, and there's this check, and then this check. Everything's with checks. Check. If this, then this. If this. And there must be a mate here. If here, then here. Let's go here. Check. Yeah, he's gonna get mated. Like that. Yeah, okay. Yeah, his king is just too exposed. But if you can't calculate all that, you can always defend like this. Okay, so let's see what happened in the game. He did this. So he takes that with tempo, threatening the gold. And then now, very nicely, he gets the knight into play. He moves it out of the way with the rook, and he hits the pinned gold. Okay. What would you play here? Seven-five silver. How are you going to do that? You don't have any silver. I mean 5-7 silver? The one on 8-4. I mean 4-8? Yeah. If this, then he can attack it like this. So you're gonna run into some trouble. And this comes right on time. So it's defending the bishop. What's better? Take with the dragon, yeah. You simply just eliminate the strong attacking pieces by taking, like here. And after he recaptures, then you notice that it's still black's turn to move. So he has a chance to gain the initiative. So how does he follow up? Oh, by the way, moving the king to 7-8 is also possible, but the continuation that he played in the game, it keeps the initiative. Do you see how? 4-4 bishop. There's some... Okay, let me just point something out to you. You notice that the king and the rook are on the same diagonal. Can you make use of that? Yes, 4-5 knight. So this ends up clearing the diagonal. So now 3-7 bishop or 4-6 bishop is threatened. Okay, check. Okay, and now there's a counter drop here. Takes. Drop here. And now black is up a tremendous amount of material. What does he do next? It's a very important defensive, uh, one of the defensive motifs. Yes, that is correct. He simply returns the material to gain initiative. So remember, when you're up material and you're being attacked, uh, it's thematic to look for ways to return the material to gain initiative. So he does it this way. And then he gets this other bishop into play. Yes. Now, if I guess you could do this. The rook is still defending that gold. If he does like this, and this is possible. What about here though? I guess you can. But then, yeah, this looks good. What about this? And move here. Yeah, this also looks kind of interesting. It's hitting the rook and defending against the pawn promotion. Yeah, okay. In the game, he pulled this guy back. And here, attacking the silver, and this check. Back, and then see, moves the bishop out of the way and threatens to take on 6-3. And then this guy falls. So after that, black's completely winning. Let's go back a couple moves. Was there any other way? I mean, he has to do something about the bishop. If he does this, though, I guess this could end up in the same type of situation. Just returning the material for the initiative. The only difference is that there's a pawn on 3-6. So that's probably that gained white a move. So probably immediately taking the knight was best. It's kind of desperado. There's no really good way to defend this bishop, so he just sacrifices it this way. Okay. I think that's about it for this game. Did you have any questions about it? What about 6-5 knight? At what point? Now? Silver's gonna take. You mean and just escape with the bishop or something? Well, now he can either promote here or he has this. So it's not, if here, can he do this? If here, maybe you can try to get rid of that bishop. But then there's this check. There's this, he also has this, like this. So there's a threat of knight drop on 5-6. So this isn't completely clear. You're starting to get play against the king. So much better just to take this thing immediately and then get this guy into play. Okay. All right. Okay. So yeah, I guess that's it for today. I hope you learned a lot. Okay, for the rest of my viewers, thank you for joining us today. If you learn from this and would like to support my stream, please consider supporting with donations. You can do that by clicking the blue Pac-Man ghost by the donations right under the screen. Thank you for joining us today. Take care. Bye.